এই শঙ্খ বাজে, ঘণ্টা বাজে, মধুর 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 বাজে। এই শঙ্খ বাজে, ঘণ্টা বাজে, মধুর 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 বাজে। শঙ্খ বাজে, ঘণ্টা বাজে, শঙ্খ বাজে, ঘণ্টা বাজে, মধুর 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 বাজে। শঙ্খ বাজে, শঙ্খ বাজে, ঘণ্টা বাজে, মধুর 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 বাজে। শঙ্খ বাজে, এই শঙ্খ বাজে, ঘণ্টা বাজে, মধুর 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 বাজে। শঙ্খ বাজে, এই গৌরাঙ্গেরা রতি মাঝে, মধুর 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 বাজে। গৌরাঙ্গেরা এই গৌরাঙ্গেরা রতি মাঝে, মধুর 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 বাজে। গৌরাঙ্গেরা রতি মাঝে, হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল, নিতাই গৌর হরি বল হরি বল। ইবা বহু কোটি চন্দ্রজিনী বদনয়ুজ্জাল, ইবা বহু কোটি চন্দ্রজিনী বদনয়ুজ্জাল, দেশে বনমালা করে ঝলমাল, গল দেশে বনমালা করে ঝলমাল, গল দে শিব শিব শুক নারদ প্রেমে গদ গদ, শিব শিব শুক নারদ প্রেমে গদ গদ, শিব ভকতি বেনাদা দেখে গৌরার সম্পাদ, ভকতি vakate venada dekhe Goraro sampada vakate Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Shri Krishna Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Shri Krishna Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Shri Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Shri Krishna Jayo Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Gaur Nityananda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Hare Krishna Jaya Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Jayo Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jayo Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jayo Radha Shamo Sundar Radha Shamo Sundar Radhe Jayo Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jayo Jagannatha Jagannatha Baladeva Jayo Subhadra Jayo Jayo Jagannatha Jagannatha Baladeva Jayo Subhadra Jayo Nitai Gaur Sundar Nitai Gaur Sundar Nitai Gaur Sundar Jayo Nitai Gaur Sundar Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Srila Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Gurudev Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Jai Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnupada Paramhamsa Paribrajagacharya Ashtatar Sadasri Srimad Abhay Charanar Vinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vinda Ki Jai Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai Vrinda Devi Ki Jai Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giriraj Govardhan Maharaj ki jai. Krishna Balaram ki jai. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Radha Shyam Sundar Ji Bhagavan ki jai. Radha Madhav Ji Bhagavan ki jai. Nitai Gaur Sundar Bhagavan ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Guru Maharaj ki jai. Nitai Gaur Sitanath Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories, glories, glories to the Guru and Gauranga. All glories Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande.
Shila Tangana Khalae Ito Nashinga Parato Nashinga Yato Yato Yamita To Nashinga Jai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo. Shri Nrsimha Bhagwan ki, Bhakta Raj Padamaji ki, Jai Gaur Pramanande.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So welcome everyone to Nikunina Dham, Baltimore, the abode of Lord Nitai Gaur Sundar, Jagannath Baldev Subhadramai, the most beautiful Shri Radha Madhav. First, I'd like to thank you, the pujaris. They've done an amazing job. So loud Haribol for them, please. Prasadam today is cooked by Jalalita Mata and wonderful team. So it'll be very, very wonderful South Indian Prasadam. So thank you so much for cooking. Haribol. Yesterday we had an amazing program. Shri Radharani's appearance day. More than 300 devotees were there here. It was just wonderful. The kirtan was just amazing. So all the devotees, I think all the decorations, all the pujaris who worked like almost like 30, 40 hours, cooking, dressing, everything. Just mind-boggling. So thank you all for their wonderful service. Really appreciate that. Is anyone coming for the first time today? No? Perfect. We all know everyone. Thank you. Oh, that's Kaushik is here for our Sunday school. He's joining Baldev class. So loud Haribol for Kaushik, please. Haribol. These kids are our future and they're coming here. The parents are excited to be part of the culture. This is our culture where we bring them, show them what we do, we love. It tells us, what most important in this culture is, tells us our parents, we should respect the parents because Shri Prabhupada tell us, he's our grandfather. He tells us how to love everybody. And through these schools, we're trying to love the humanity, love the world itself. And these kids are the future. So our Sunday school teachers trying to teach them what is their culture, who is God, how to love everybody else. So there is always compassion, love, peace in this world for that one. So thank you, Mataji, for doing this wonderful service. We appreciate that. I'd like to welcome, after I think 4 or 5 years or 7 years, we are very fortunate. One of Prabhupada's very, very senior disciple, Rukmini Mataji, is here. Haribo. So can one Mataji please take the garland and put it on her, please? Oh, please, Mataji. Yes. Right there all the way. Yes, yes. No. Mataji, just a brief, I think it's been almost 67 or something, more than almost 50 years in Krishna consciousness in Montreal, and she's just a epitome of like motherly love for everybody. I had my family, all of us had such close relationship, Mataji, and whoever comes in association with her, they just know that how wonderful she is, and she spreads Krishna consciousness just by her presence everywhere. Thank you, Mataji, for coming. Really appreciate that. And of course, this time Mataji is there. Then, of course, her erstwhile husband, our GBC Anuttama Prabhu, is here. We welcome Anuttama Prabhu. Thank you so much for coming, Prabhuji. So also, I think this coming week, we have next week is a very special program in New Vrindavan. It's called Mantra Retreat. What it means is for men. It's a retreat for men, so that the goal of this retreat is that devotees and everybody else, they can go to West Virginia, beautiful area of Virginia, where they can uplift their spiritual love for each other, and also have a good close bonding. They can share their realizations. As Anuttara Prabhu said last time, Mataji will be very happy that Prabhus are out, so they can their own retreat here for that one. So if you wish to do part of the retreat, I think, Prabhuji, what's the website? man-tra.org. It's just go through and register for that, and there will be a space for you. It will be really wonderful. It's a 3-day retreat, but it will be such nice and relaxing. I don't know how many people have come to West Virginia. I don't know. Has everybody gone to West Virginia? Many haven't, but it's a very beautiful place. It's in scenic mountains. 1,500 acres is there. Beautiful, I think, lake is there, and the whole ambience is very, very wonderful. And among all devotees, what better than do that for that? So if you're interested, just go and register that. It will be really wonderful. We trust for that. We'd like to welcome Anantara Prabhu to welcome the speaker for today. We are very glad and honored to have Chaitanya Charan Prabhu come for a gap of several years. Haribol! Thank you so much, Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji, coming here all the way from India. We are so grateful and honored to have you here.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So as our speaker is getting set up, see, he hasn't even started the introduction. They're already applauding. They're recognizing. So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is, in one sense, you could say his home base is in Pune, but he travels so much around the world these days. I think his home base is sitting on the Vyasasan, wherever that might be in different parts of the world. I can just mention a few things. For starters, he's written 27 books on Krishna consciousness. 27. So I'm just curious. Raise your hand if you've written one book on Krishna consciousness. Okay, so good reason to listen to him. He's 27 books ahead of you. And he's going to mention at the end, but I know he has two of his newest books that we purchased the other day when we were in Washington, D.C. Are they here? Okay. But he's going to more information about the books at the end. But I would encourage everybody to take advantage of those. And I didn't realize Rukmini hadn't been here in 5 years or something like that. I think she's been here more recent than that. But I was to say that just shows if she's only been here every 5 or 7 years and she came to hear him, this shows how we want to try to pay some attention. I'll just mention, in addition to his books and his traveling and his preaching, he has a daily podcast that he puts out. He's going to maybe explain a little more of that. I think he has 4,000 something.
Okay, there are 4,000 articles and there are about 700,000 followers on Facebook.
27 books, 4,000 articles. And I think for me, most importantly, he's a member of the Shastric Advisory Council, which is a body of senior devotees, Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis around the world that have scholarly abilities and insight on a tradition. And whenever the governing body commission needs guidance on a particular topic, they ask the Shastric Advisory Committee or Council to do some research. He's a member of that. They just recently produced about a 75-page paper on Brahma Gayatri initiation and understanding the tradition and what are the guidelines by which it should be applied and when it shouldn't be. So a very, very important group giving some spiritual insight for our whole society. So very much happy to be here. If you have a notebook with you, many of you probably didn't bring, you should get it out, or your phone, because as I told him the other day, I don't want to raise the bar too much, and then maybe he's spoken so much, maybe he'll run out of some of his Shakti. But Chaitanya Charan is one of the few people I know, he'll make a point, and then to give example of that point is another very interesting point, and to give an example of that, there's another interesting point. So it's kind of like layer upon layer upon layer of a very effective and insightful Krishna consciousness. So I personally is one of my favorite speakers to hear, and I hope you all will enjoy him as hearing from him as well. And please, let's give him a nice big round of applause.
Oh, okay, I'm there. I should change that. Sorry. So, Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Grateful to be here. Thank you, Anuttama Prabhu, for your kind words. I think your kind words have placed the responsibility on you to empower me so that I can speak something which will not be a total disappointment after the kind of words that you have spoken. Sometimes you have a movie in which the trailer is very good and the actual movie is a duh. So the trailer was what you spoke about me, and the actual movie is going to be what I am. So I hope it's not too much of a disappointment. So I seek the blessings of Anuttama Prabhu and Rukmini Mataji so that I can speak today. So I'll speak today on the topic of, if God is in control, do we really have free will? And if we have free will, is God really in control? So I was asked this question when I was speaking at Ivy League University about a month ago in Stanford, that 2 months, more than 2 months ago. So the point is that when we look at the world, there are so many bad things happening. We can see there's war, there is climate change, there's environmental degradation, there is inflation, there is humans who mismanage things in colossal ways. So we may wonder, is God really in control in such situations? And if He is in control, then are we like puppets? Do we really have any free will? So why does this question matter so much? Because when we relate with each other, when we are relating with each other, even if we don't really care much for God, but when we are relating with each other, our greatest hope is that people can change for the better. And our greatest fear is that people may change for the worse. And if people didn't have free will, if we didn't have free will, then all of existence would seem meaningless. And if we say, no, this person has free will and this person did terrible things, then we say, okay, where is God in all this situation? Sometimes some terrorists kill innocent people, sometimes some people just go crazy and take guns and go into schools and start shooting. Say, where is God in all this? So I'll speak in this topic based on this verse from the Bhagavad-Gita, which gives a very vivid visual metaphor to illustrate. So, yatha akashasthit. The verse is not visible. That's strange.
Recording in progress.
So this is the verse. Let us try to, I'll explain the meaning and we'll recite it once at least and then we'll discuss it. So yatha akash, akash is the sky, just as in the sky, sthito nityam is always situated. Yatha akash sthito nityam. Somebody else's screen, it's not on my screen. Okay, there is on the screen, whoever is operating that screen. It's not on my screen. Can you make me a co-host or something so that my screen sharing will lead to screen sharing there? Screen sharing is enabled, but what I am sharing is not being shown. Anyway, that's okay. I'll just explain the verse, we'll move ahead. Okay, so but how do we get that out of the way? Okay, let me try something here. Okay, good. So, yatha akasha sthito nityam. Then vayu, wind. Sarvatra go mahan. It is very powerful, mahan, and can go everywhere. The wind can go everywhere, although it is situated in the sky. Vayu sarvatra go mahan. Tatha, similarly, sarvani bhutani. Similarly, all living beings. Tatha sarvani bhutani matsthanitya, in me, upadharaya, are situated, are sustained. Matsthanitya upadharaya. So Krishna is saying over here, if we envision the sky to be like an upside down bowl, then inside the sky, the wind is there. And the wind can move left, right, up, down, various directions. So the movement of the wind is not restricted, but the area of movement of the wind is restricted. So similarly, all living beings are situated in me. What he means is that living beings have their free will. And we could envision every one of us is covered by an upside down bowl, like umbrella. And within that, we can move. We can move left, right, up, down. But when we hit the limits of that upside down ball, we can't do anything. So this later on in the Upanishads it's explained, and the Gita also it is hinted at, that this is actually share now? Okay, it won't share now. Okay, fine. So in the Gita it is stated that there is what is called as the kshetra, the field of activity of every person. So right now, my kshetra is that I can control my laptop, but I can't control that screen. So we all have certain level of control. And within that area of control, we can do what we want. But that area of control is limited. So this upside down ball in which we are all situated like our kshetra. Say for example, we all may get angry. Now when a small infant gets angry, the infant can only flail its hands and legs inside the crib. A slightly older child, and they get angry, the child may pound hands and legs on the ground. Older person may take some things and start throwing at them. If a person is a licensed gun owner, that person can go and shoot someone and they get angry. If that person is the president of America, they can press a nuclear button and a whole country may blow up. So everybody has that vice, that impurity of anger. But their domain of control is different. And depending on how big is their domain of control, they can cause that much damage. Now, of each of these people have their particular small or big domain of control, their kshetra. But beyond that kshetra, they can't do anything. So the president of America may be able to blow up one country, but the president of America can't blow up anything on the moon or on some other planet. And then, once the president of America, the tenure ends and that person is no longer in power, their kshetra, which is so big, immediately shrinks. That person who commanded the armed forces of the most powerful army in the world, according to some people at least, that person can't even stop the police from raiding their own house. Isn't it? So, the kshetra, the field of control can vary enormously. And while a person has a large kshetra, that person can do a large number of things. And within those things, when a person is doing something, God does not interfere. Krishna does not interfere. Some people, Krishna says, Upadrashta Anumantacha. I am the overseer and I am the permitter. So, some people say that whatever is happening, it is all done by God. So, how many of you agree with this statement that whatever is happening, everything is done by God? Anyone agrees with this? Okay, everything is done by God. Okay, how many of you say that everything that happens is not done by God? It's difficult to say that, isn't it? Okay, it's not done by God, some of you. Okay. Okay, let me put another question now. When say, let's take a provocative situation to illustrate this point. When in the Kuru assembly, Draupadi was dragged there to be dishonored. At that time, Krishna came and Krishna saved Draupadi by offering her unlimited robe. But before that, when Dushasan was trying to dishonor and disrobe Draupadi, was it Krishna doing that through Dushasan? What do you think? No, yeah, yes. So, Krishna allowed it, but it is not Krishna doing it. See, everything, God is the cause of all causes, not the cause of all effects. What is the difference? God is the cause of all causes. Sarva karana karanam. But He's not the cause of all effects. That means that if Dushasan wants to do something brutal, the strength that Dushasan has, Dushasan is also soul. And the soul actually has no control over the body. The control over the body is a result of the arrangement made by the Paramatma in the heart. So, actually, his ability to control his body and use his body to control something externally, that is by Krishna's arrangement. That means Krishna is the cause of all causes. In the cause of all causes means everything ultimately, the power for it to happen comes from Krishna. But how that power is used, that's the effect. That is not determined by Krishna. The Vedanta Sutra gives the example that the rains are the cause of all the vegetation that grows on the earth. Parjanya Anna Sambhava, as the Bhagavad-Gita says. Without rains, no vegetation will grow on the earth. But the specific vegetation that grows at different places, that is not determined by the rains. That is determined by what has been sown over there. Either consciously by the person who is plowing the land or taking care of the garden, or unconsciously what has just been there as seeds are just arranged by nature and the weeds are growing over there, or random vegetation is growing over there. So the rain, without the rain, nothing will grow. But what grows specifically is not determined by the rain. So the cause of all causes is Krishna, not the cause of all effects. Everything that happens is not caused by Krishna. It is sanctioned by Krishna. If everything that happens were done by Krishna, then there are two problems with that. First is, that would leave no scope for free will. We would all become like puppets in Krishna's hands. We are all puppets. And Krishna is acting through all of us. Now the problem with that is, we are held responsible for our actions. There is karma. So when some bad people do bad things, it is Krishna doing the bad things through those people, and then Krishna punishing those people for doing bad things. That would be horrible. That would make God into a devil. Makes people do bad things and then punishes them for doing bad things. So, it is not that Krishna is doing everything. So within that kshetra, within that limit, the domain of the upside down umbrella, that is Dushasan had that kshetra. He had that physical prowess, he had that political position by which he could do certain things. And both his physical prowess and his political position was there for some time. And during that time, he could do what he wanted. But that kshetra, that upside down umbrella, that was not determined by him. The size of it was not determined by him. The length for which it survives is not determined by him. And that is why, if somebody becomes proud of their capacity to do things, that pride is, in one side, a sign of ignorance. Yes, we may have capacity to do a lot of things, but that capacity is not in our own hands. The important thing is we do have free will. And what we do with our free will is up to us. So now if you consider the Mahabharata, another incident in the Mahabharata, what happens is Krishna goes as the peace messenger to the Kuru assembly. And this is sometimes we just hear the story, Krishna went a Shanti Dut, but it's actually a very serious gesture. What is being conveyed over here is that, say, now between Ukraine and Russia, war is going on. And they may say, I will have some peace negotiations. Maybe some general of the Russian army and some general of the Ukrainian army, they talk with each other. Or maybe their Minister of Defenses talk with each other. But suppose the Ukrainian head of state goes to Russia, personally talk for peace, seek peace. That means that they're very serious. The power of the person who is going as a peace messenger conveys the seriousness of the peace endeavor. So Krishna was the most powerful person, and he personally went to seek peace. And when he went to seek peace, Krishna actually tries earnestly. Krishna uses, in traditional Niti Shastra it is described that there are 4 ways of trying to resolve a dispute. Sam, Dam, Bhed and Danda. So Sam is, we both have the same interests. So Krishna started that, he says, both of you belong to the same dynasty. You share the same ancestors, you share the same lineage. Why should you fight among each other? Now each of these points I am making very briefly here. Krishna is very eloquent in his speech over there. Sam. And then what happens is, after that, there is, so he uses them alternately. Then he says, if you do not see your shared interests, do not think you will win. Danda, he says. That Danda, he says, what happens is, Arjuna has just single-handedly defeated your entire army. And in Virat. And before that, Arjuna has defeated the entire army of the Devatas at the Khandava. And an army that had defeated the Devatas, the Nivat Kavachas, Arjuna has single-handedly defeated that. So you have no chance of winning. If you fight against the Pandavas, you will be destroyed. And then Krishna uses Bhed. Bhed, he says, is that actually initially Krishna is speaking to Dhritarashtra. And because Dhritarashtra is the king. When he's speaking to Dhritarashtra, at that time Dhritarashtra says, he says, you don't have to convince me. I'm convinced. It is my son, Duryodhana, he doesn't listen to me. So then Krishna turns to Duryodhana and starts speaking to him. So this is the next situation is, Dhritarashtra was on the throne, but actually Duryodhana had the power. So, those of you who know a little bit about Indian politics, before the current Indian government, the situation was like that. There was one person in the Prime Minister's chair and another person in power. So what happened was that Krishna spoke to Duryodhana. And then finally, Krishna could see that Duryodhana was not interested in listening at all. So this Krishna then turned to assembly. All of you Kuru elders, you know what is good for the dynasty. So if Duryodhana does not see sense, at least you should see sense. And you should not support Duryodhana for the sake of the Kuru dynasty. And Krishna's speech was so influential that Duryodhana's right-hand man turned against him. Who was Duryodhana's right-hand man? His brother. Who's their brother? Dushasan. Dushasan, he said that if Duryodhana doesn't listen to Keshava in the Mahabharata, the name Krishna is not used that word, Keshava is used. If Duryodhana doesn't listen to Keshava, all of us should tie him up and arrest him and hand him over to Keshava. Now Duryodhana was infuriated. What happened to you? What are you doing? He didn't speak that. That was a gesture, glaring at Duryodhana, at Dushasan. And finally, Duryodhana had one policy. When this elaborate negotiations were going on, when things were turning against him, he would just have one policy: walk out. Stage a walk out. So just walk out of the assembly. And now, Duryodhana, whatever we may say, he had some good qualities. Once I was asked to give a seminar in IIM. on the Mahabharata. But they said, don't tell us traditional black and white. Tell us a little sophisticated things. So I gave a talk on leadership lessons from Duryodhan. And the subtitle was, How Not to Lead. So, now whatever we say, actually, Duryodhan had some leadership qualities. He, how many brothers did he have? 99. And they all followed him. Those of you who have one or two siblings, try to get them to follow you. And see how difficult it is. Isn't it? So he had some ability. And Dushasan had always been following him. So the 98 other brothers, they were confused. What to do? We always followed Duryodhan because Dushasan also followed him. When Dushasan and Duryodhan are opposed, what to do? Duryodhan has walked out. They all looked at each other, and one by one they all walked out. And then Dushasan was left all alone. Now all the Kuru assembly was saying, are you going to walk your talk? Will you arrest Duryodhan and bring him back and tie him up? He looked here, he looked around, and he just walked out. And he knew Duryodhan, Duryodhan had his own favorite area of the palace. He had gone there. And Duryodhan was sitting. Now, Duryodhan was a master manipulator. So he heard Dushasan's footsteps coming in. Now, he could have got on Dushasan's case. How dare you betray me like this? But instead, what he did was, he said to his brothers, this Keshava is a very cunning person. The way he speaks, he can make a fool out of anyone. His speech is very seductive. And even our dear Dushasan, he was seduced by Krishna's speech, isn't it, Dushasan? And Dushasan was peeking in through the door, thinking I should come in or not. And what Duryodhan did was, he gave Dushasan an opportunity to save face. No, you didn't turn against me. This is Krishna's deceptive speech of him. Yes. Krishna deceived me. I'm not against you. And Dushasan came in. And this way, Duryodhana won Dushasan back on his side. But what was Krishna doing? I was talking about the 4 ways of dealing. So Krishna tried first Sam. Then he thought Danda. Danda is, you will be destroyed if you fight again. Then he had tried Bhed. And none of these worked. And then finally, again all of the Dhritarashtra said, come back to the kingdom. Come back to the assembly. He sent a message. And Duryodhana came back. At that time, Krishna offered the last. What is the last one? Dham. So Sam is reconciliation, similarity of interests. Danda is threat of punishment. Bhed is creating dissension. And then last is now it's Dham. Dham is offering allurements. So he said, if you want the kingdom, you keep the kingdom. Give the Pandavas just 5 villages to rule. And this was a remarkable concession from half the kingdom to just 5 villages. And what was Duryodhan's reply? Does anyone remember? Okay, even I won't give as much land as needed to put the tip of a needle through. Now you say, as a dialogue, it sounds very great. How? But in terms of the context, what does it mean? Suppose we invite someone to come for a program. And they don't want to come, so they make an excuse. Now they are making an excuse, we know that they're making an excuse, and they know that we know that they're making an excuse. But still, there is some level of politeness where they're making an excuse. Or that hypocrisy is the last respect that vice offers to virtue. That means that somebody is cunning, somebody is deceptive, but at least they try to appear truthful. So here that person is trying to make an excuse. But suppose that we invite somebody for a program and they say, even if I die, my dead body will never come to your program. That is not just saying no to the invitation. That is like kicking the person who is invited us out of the door. Get out of here. So Duryodhan's reply was like that. That he says, I will not give you enough land to put even the tip of the needle through. And at that time, Krishna became grave. And he turned toward the assembly. All of you, O Kuru elders, you have heard the king's admission of powerlessness before his obstinate son. You have seen for yourself the obstinacy of this foolish Duryodhana. It is for you to decide whether you will let the fate of the Kuru dynasty be determined by someone so foolish. And again, Duryodhana was afraid that Krishna's words may affect everyone. And then Duryodhana had his emergency plan. What was that? Arrest Krishna. He says he had his elite regiment of soldiers. He says, arrest him, Keshava, right now. And they all charged in. And Krishna was completely nonchalant. Krishna just stood there and exhibited his Vishwarupa. And the sight was so dazzling, so overwhelming. It suddenly appeared as if his form had expanded to cover the entire space, all the directions. It appeared with the storms in the wind, there was storms in the air, there was thunder, lightning. It seemed to be, earth seemed to be quaking. And the sight was so overwhelming that everybody, they just couldn't keep their eyes open. They closed their eyes. And some of them swooned. And at that time, the soldiers, they just looked at this person, because how can we arrest? Just fell back in horror and fear. And then Dhritarashtra was blind. He asked, what's going on? Sanjay said, he's showing his Vishwarupa. Then Dhritarashtra prayed to Krishna, can I please see your Vishwarupa? Now Krishna had no reason to show. But again, Krishna gave him that vision, removed his blindness temporarily, so that at least now, after seeing this massive form, which no one could fight against, maybe Dhritarashtra would come to his senses and control Duryodhana. Dhritarashtra saw this form, and Krishna displayed his form. But from Dhritarashtra's expression, he could see that he was awestruck by the form, but not awestruck enough to be able to give up his attachment to Duryodhana. Then Krishna, very nonchalantly, he just withdrew his form, manifested his normal form, and Satyaki was next to him. He put his hand on Satyaki's shoulder and walked away. As if nothing seemed to have happened. And now while walking, Krishna didn't even speak much, he just walked away. And then now everybody turned to Duryodhana. First of all, trying to arrest a peace messenger. That itself was a heinous, outrageous violation of the normal codes of conduct. But on top of that, his perception had also been foiled. And Duryodhana was stunned initially. But then what happens is, none are so blind as those who refuse to see. So Duryodhana said, actually, Keshava is just a magician. He showed a form and confused all of us. He showed some magical form and confused all of us. Actually, if I had some time, I could also do some yoga and get some mystical power. I can also show some forms. There's no big deal. He says, when the war happens, all this magic is not going to affect us. We will defeat him. So he was completely unfazed. And then Krishna went back the next morning. And Krishna went back at one level. You can say Krishna had gone on a peace mission, and his peace mission failed. So that raises a serious philosophical question. Can God fail? What do you think? Can God fail? Well, you don't want to say no, but you can't say yes, isn't it? So, actually one of the names of Vishnu is Satya Sankalpa. Satya Sankalpa means whatever he desires, whatever he resolves, his Sankalpa will become true. So, here he came to seek peace and his peace mission failed. So, how is Vishnu Satya Sankalpa? That is actually revealed by Krishna himself earlier. Before the peace mission, the previous night, see, Krishna was a master tactician, but Duryodhana was also tactician. So Duryodhana, in politics, optics is quite important. You may not be a good person, but you have to look a good person. So what Duryodhana had done was, he was actually expert at manipulating people in such a way that they would become devoted to him. So when he had palaces built for all the 100 brothers, he arranged for Dushasan's palace to be bigger and better than his own palace. Sure, I love you so much. I may be the eldest, but you get the best. And then his plan was, he said, when Krishna comes, when Keshav comes, I will shower him with gifts. I will shower him with so much luxury, so much comfort, so many gifts that he will be overwhelmed. And he will not speak anything against me. He said, I'll offer him residence in Dushasan's palace. He said, Dushasan, you can move in my palace. And when Krishna came, what happened was, he said, Krishna, I want you to come in. I've arranged Dushasan's palace for you. And please come and have a feast over there. And Krishna was quite, not cold, but formal. He said, one person eats at another person's house for two reasons. Either there is affection between the two of them, or that person is hungry. He said, you have consistently been averse to the Pandavas, and I am not hungry. So I will not come to your place. And then he went to whose house did he go to? Vidura. Now this is a very strong statement, because Vidura was a stepbrother, and Vidura actually didn't have a palace. And Vidura was not just a stepbrother who was out of favor with, if not the king, at least the king's son who was actually in power, with Duryodhana. So Vidura's residence was not a very opulent residence. But Krishna went there. And Krishna had arrived the previous evening. And the next morning was going to be the peace negotiations. So at that evening, when Vidura was with Krishna, Vidura said, oh Krishna, why have you come here? You know that Duryodhana is not going to listen to you. And my heart trembles at the thought of what will happen in that assembly. Duryodhana had been so insolent that he had actually told his plan. I will seduce Krishna, and if I can't seduce him, then I will arrest him. And when Bhishma had heard this, he had got so angry. He said, what wrong has Keshav done ever to you? He has always been fair to you. And Keshav's brother has trained you in fighting. The Yadu dynasty has never been anything but good to you. How can you arrest a member of the Yadu dynasty? I will not even sit here and hear any such obnoxious plans. And he walked out. So Bhishma was actually a very level-headed person. Bhishma had not yelled, had not exploded at Duryodhana, even when Duryodhana and his gang had tried to dishonor Draupadi. But when Bhishma exploded like this, at that time, everyone thought that would have a deterrent effect on Duryodhana, and Duryodhana would abandon his plan. Even Duryodhana looked a little chastened. But Vidura was suspicious. Yes, Vidura was saying that, Krishna, Duryodhana has a plan to arrest you. And Vidura said, in that assembly, I have already seen one humiliation, the humiliation of Draupadi. He says, Krishna, if I have to see another humiliation there, I will not be able to live. If they try to arrest you, I will die. At that time, Krishna replied, and he said, I know that Duryodhana is not going to listen to me. And I have come here only for the sake of the Pandavas, to let the world know that the cause of the war was not the Pandavas, it was the Kauravas, it was Duryodhana. So it was this Sankalpa which was successful. Krishna's intention at one level was to seek peace. Krishna is so expert that simultaneously he can be pursuing many things. And it was not that Krishna was simply acting. If you look at Krishna's speech, Krishna was extremely earnest in seeking peace. But by Duryodhana making this impressive seeming dialogue, I will not give you even the tip of a land to pass through. Tip of the land enough for a tip of a needle to go through. What happened was, actually Duryodhana fully, willingly played into Krishna's plan. What was Krishna's plan? Let the world see Duryodhana's defiance. Let the world see Duryodhana's obstinacy. And therefore, the blame for the war will not come on the Pandavas. It will come on Duryodhana. So, Krishna's plan is not always what we may think is Krishna's plan. So, Krishna's purpose is never foiled. But what Krishna's purpose is very difficult for us to know. Bhishma Pitama himself says this when he's in the arrow bed and he's talking with Yudhishthir. He says that Tasyanu Rajan, he says, Naveda Jigisya, that nobody can know the plan of the Lord. And that is why when some bad people do bad things, I think, is it Krishna's plan being foiled? What is Krishna doing? What is Krishna thinking? What is Krishna planning? Why is Krishna letting this happen? Actually, there are people who have free will, and by their, now I talk about this kshetra, that a person may have a certain level of influence. That happens by their personal karma. The karma that they have gotten in the past, by which they have a certain level of influence. And with that level of influence, they can use or abuse that power. And when they abuse that, it may seem that they are throwing a wrench in Krishna's plan. Krishna wants to do something good, and they are disrupting it. But Krishna's plan is remarkably resilient. Krishna is remarkably resourceful. Even if somebody does something bad, something wrong, Krishna can modify his plan and keep moving things forward in the way he wants. So it's like, suppose we are using GPS. And on GPS, the GPS is guiding us, turn right. And then we turn left. And what happens? Does GPS say, you disobeyed me, get lost? No. What does GPS do? Immediately reroutes. And shows, okay, now you go this way. So Krishna is like the ultimate GPS. So people have the power to take wrong turns. And some people take wrong turns out of ignorance, they just don't know better. And some people may take wrong turns because of defiance. They just don't care for Krishna. But no matter who takes what wrong turns, Krishna can keep his plan operational. So that's why all this, we see what happens is, I'll conclude with 2 points and then we can have a few questions. That we all have free will and we are responsible for our actions. Others have free will and they are responsible for their actions. And sometimes when others misuse their free will, they can create trouble for us. When they create trouble for us, is it that Krishna wants that trouble for us? Well, maybe we don't know what Krishna wants. Does Krishna want them to act that way? Not necessarily. But Krishna is allowing them to act that way. And Krishna has his own purpose. So, rather than fixating on why is this person being so unreasonable? Why is this person being so stupid, so foolish, so cruel? Sometimes we just can't figure that out. That is just, people have their free will, and sometimes because of whatever influence it might be, they may misuse their free will. So at that time, rather than fixating on their actions, we need to see what is our duty. What is the right thing for us to do? How can we act in the best possible way in that situation? in the Ramayana, when Kaikeyi is influenced by Mantara, and she pressures the Dashrath Maharaj into sending Ram into exile and making Bharat the prince regent. At that time, Lakshman is furious, and Lakshman wants to lead a coup, a rebellion against Dashrath. He says, Ram, you deserve to be the king, and I will support you. Become the king. He said that, how could, now there's an elaborate conversation, but I'll focus on the main part here. And he says that, how could Kaikeyi have done something like this, He said, how could she, what harm have you ever done to her? How could she have done like this to you? Lakshman is furious. And Ram says, don't speak badly about Kaikeyi. You know how much she loved me. Her love for me was like the flow of the Ganga river. It was pure, it was continuous, it was unstoppable. So Dashrath is still angry. He says, that's what I can't understand. How did the Ganga dry up in one night? So at that time, Ram becomes grave and he says that's why when I heard her speak those words, I understood that this must be the working of destiny. When some reasonable person suddenly starts behaving unreasonably, some person who just starts behaving in a very troublesome way, and there seems to be no resolution, then we see that this is the will of destiny. This is the will of destiny. See, Kaikeyi is not considered an evil person. She is not evil, but she is weak. And she is misled by Mantara. So Ram does not hold it against her. And he says, this is the will of destiny. So Lakshman says, it is only cowards who accept injustice by calling it as destiny. He says, heroes fight against injustice. So you should fight for your rights and gain the kingdom. And Ram is still grave and he says, for me, ascending to the throne was not a matter of my right. It was a matter of my duty. He says, it was my father's will that I ascend the throne, and as a service to him, I was doing that. If now my service to my father requires me to go to the forest, I will do that. So what did Lord Ram do? He focused on what was his duty. Now in this case, what did he do? He said, okay, it is the will of destiny, let me go to the forest. But later on, when Sita was abducted, Ram did think, oh, it must be the will of destiny that Sita is abducted. So maybe I was too attached to my wife. Maybe this is an arrangement of destiny to detach me from my wife. So let her go with Ravan. That would have been a horrendous dereliction of his duty. There Ram considered, what is my duty? My duty is, as a husband, I have to protect my wife. And therefore, he arranged an army and fought against her. So when somebody does something terrible, the point is that instead of simply fixating on their actions, we focus on our responsibility, our duty. And we focus on doing that duty. Yes, it is not that God, it is not because Krishna has allowed that to happen, therefore I have to passively accept it. And it is not because Krishna has allowed it to happen, therefore I have to aggressively go against it. So in every action that happens, there is that person's free will and there is Krishna's plan. So if that person is reasonable, we try to reconcile and adjust things. But if the person is not reasonable, then we focus on what is Krishna's plan. What can I do to make things better? How can I act responsibly in this situation? So that's the first part. And the second part, which I'll conclude, is that, see, when somebody misuses their free will, they make things worse. I discuss what to do. But what happens if we misuse our free will and we do something terrible? Is it that Krishna wanted us to do that? If we speak some harsh words and we ruin a very important relationship with someone, or we succumb to some temptation and it creates a whole chaos in our life, at that time we can't say that Krishna wanted that to happen. It was our weakness, it was our mistake. And at that time, what do we do? At that time, it's important for us to understand that although our mistake is not God's plan, God's plan can work even through our mistake. Just because I made a mistake does not mean Krishna's plan will stop working now. Krishna's plan is still working. Krishna's plan can work even through our mistakes. Not just in spite of our mistakes, but even through our mistakes. We know the story of the Akshay Patra, where when the Pandavas were in the forest, they wanted to serve the sages and the Brahmins who were there. So they got the dish which was inexhaustible. And now, in our house, if we have some silverware or some golden plates, if we serve food in them, if we use them, then we clean them very, very carefully. And then we keep them carefully. In this case, this particular plate was more valuable than any silverware or goldenware for them. And how is it that when Draupadi, everybody finished their meal and Draupadi finished her meal, somehow while cleaning that plate, one little morsel of food remained? Was it Draupadi's mistake? Was it one of the people who were assisting Draupadi? It was their mistake. But when the sages came over there and asked for food, and Durvasa Muni came, and all the Pandavas were panicky. What do we do now? And Draupadi is the person who exhibited great presence of mind. She says, we pray to Krishna. And sometimes what happens is, we pray to Krishna for solving a problem, and the problem seems to become worse. So he's praying to Krishna, Krishna, please help us in this danger. And Krishna immediately appears over there and he says, Draupadi, I'm extremely hungry, please give me some food. And Draupadi was aghast. First, I'm not able to provide food to all these sages, and now Krishna is asking for food. I can't provide food to him also. So sometimes our prayer seems to be making the problem worse. But what happens is, he says, oh Krishna, I don't have any food. He says, no, just see, I'm hungry. Just see if something is there. And then she goes and she sees, actually there's this little morsel of shark which is left on the plate. And she comes and says, Krishna, this is all that I have. He says, give it to me. And Krishna takes that and eats that. And what happens is, when he eats that food, not only he feels contented, but all the sages, Durvasa and his thousands of disciples, they all feel so contented, they start belching. And often this is the focus of the story, that how by satisfying Krishna, everyone is satisfied. But there's another point in the story, that for Draupadi, it might have been a mistake that that particular morsel of food remained on her Akshay Patra. But Krishna used that very mistake for his plan. So, in Krishna's plan, no mistake is fatal. No mistake by us is fatal, no misdeed by anyone else is fatal. And that is why, as devotees, we never lose hope. We never lose hope. Because Krishna's plan is always operational. Our mistakes, others' misdeeds, others' mistakes, our misdeeds, our misdeeds, others' misdeeds, our mistakes, others' mistakes, whatever the combination may be. Through it all, Krishna's plan is always acting. Now, Krishna's plan may not be what we think is Krishna's plan. Krishna's plan was not coming as a Shanti Dut to seek peace. It was to demonstrate to the world who is the cause of war. And that plan was successful. So it may appear that a particular plan is not working. But Krishna's plan may be bigger than what we think is his plan. And that plan will be working. So what we do is, whatever free will we have, we try to use it as responsibly as we can. And if somebody is misusing their free will, we try to make them see sense. If we don't, we just focus on using our free will properly. If we have made some mistakes in our past, we acknowledge the mistakes, but we don't beat ourselves up for them. We don't become discouraged or devastated by that. Think, okay, how can I act responsibly right now? What is the thing that I can do right now to make things better. And in that way, Krishna Bhakti, Krishna consciousness is actually a consciousness of constant hope and constant energy. Constant hope because even if we have made terrible mistakes, Krishna's plan is still operational. And constant energy because each one of us has a place in Krishna's plan. And we all can play our part in Krishna's plan. And thus, we bring goodness, we bring bhakti in our heart, and we bring goodness in the world around us. It may be in a small capacity, it may be in a big capacity. That we do not know. But we all can play our part in making ourselves better and making our corner of the world better, despite our mistakes or others' mistakes. And that is the vision. Wherever is Krishna, wherever is Arjuna, there'll be victory. When the Bhagavad-Gita says at the end, 1878, that does not mean that every battle the Pandavas will win. Even after that declaration, Arjuna lost Abhimanyu. Bad things did happen. But ultimately, Krishna's plan was successful. And thus, the Bhagavad Gita's mission ends with Arjuna filled with hope, filled with energy. And similarly, we can also be filled with hope. Hope means that what is happening, it is moving towards something good. Energy means that I can play a part in the moving of things toward good. And in that way, we all can have this positivity in our lives by internalizing the wisdom of bhakti into our heads and our hearts. So I'll summarize. I spoke today about the interaction between human will and divine will. If we have free will, does God really control everything? And if God controls everything, do we really have free will? So I started by talking about if bad people do bad things, is God doing it through them? No. So then how is it? The vision of the upside down bowl. That just as the wind moves within the domain of the sky, we all have our kshetra. And within that, we have free will. Within that, we can do whatever we want. And Krishna does not interfere. Now, what if somebody does bad things? What does Krishna do about it? Krishna has his plan, and it goes on even through people's bad choices. In that connection, I talked about Krishna's peace mission to Hastinapur. And how Krishna was earnest using Sam, Dam, Bhed and Danda. And because of Duryodhana's arrogance, he rejected Krishna's plan. And did Krishna fail? Yes, in one plan to establish peace, he failed. But in another plan, to show who was the cause of war, Krishna could not have been more successful. Duryodhana fully played into Krishna's hands. So even in Krishna's plan seems to be foiled, there is some other plan of Krishna which is still working. And with that understanding, how do we see others' mistakes or others' misdeeds? We focus not on what they are doing and why they are doing it. If they don't see sense, we focus on what is the right thing for us to do. So Ram did not fixate on Kaikai and why she was acting in such a terrible way. He focused on what is my duty in this situation. And if we ourselves commit some mistakes, we don't beat ourselves up. We know that our mistakes may not be Krishna's plan, but Krishna's plan can work even through our mistakes. Draupadi is leaving a little morsel of food on the Akshay Patra was what Krishna used for demonstrating a divine truth and solving a problem. And thus, if we understand how we always have free will and we always have a part in Krishna's ever ongoing plan, and that is a vision which can fill us with hope and energy, irrespective of what people are doing around us, good or bad things people may be doing around us, irrespective of even whatever bad things we ourselves may have done. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So, any comments, Prabhu? Okay. Yes, Ram. How?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So you spoke about how Krishna is the cause of all causes, but he's not the effect. I'm trying to understand this. And the Bhagavad Gita says that, living entities are conducted under the three modes of material nature. and you know the three modes of material nature are essentially his external energy. So how do
Three modes of material nature are? What is the last sentence you said?
his external the three
External
modes of material nature is part of his external energy.
Okay.
So how to understand because his external energy is inextricably linked to him. So how to understand him
Okay.
being not the effect when
Okay, good
the
question.
effect could be caused by his material energy, which
Okay,
is
that's a good
inextricably
question.
linked.
Good question. See, if Krishna is the controller of the modes and everything is done by the modes, then isn't it that it is Krishna who is doing everything? He is the cause of all effects. Not exactly. Although it is said that everything is done by the modes, but still Krishna speaks the Bhagavad Gita and tells Arjuna, do this and don't do this. Or rather than Krishna, if you do this, this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. These are the choices before you. These will be the consequences. And now you decide what you want to do. If we had no decision-making agency at all, then there is no point in Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita. Isn't it? If everything is done by the modes, then irrespective of whether Krishna speaks the Bhagavad Gita or not, everything will be done by the modes. What is the use of Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita? So it is not that simple. What Krishna means over there is that Prakrite Kriyamanani Gunai Karmani Sarvasya. He says, when he says 327, there are other verses also. See, Krishna says everything is done by the modes. But as I said, Krishna tells Arjuna, now do as you desire. And Krishna, that's 1863. 1873, Arjuna says that I will do your will. So we do have agency. Now, this is reconciled. So one extreme is we don't do anything. And the other extreme is we do everything. I could say pendulum. In between, in 1816, Krishna says, Tatraivam sati kartaram atmanam kevalam tuyaha pashyatya akrita buddhitvan nasa pashyati durmati. He says, therefore, one who thinks, I am the sole doer, is an illusion. We are doers, but we are not the sole doers. I may want to speak right now, but if I suddenly get some sore throat or something, I may want to speak, but I will not be able to speak. So I am certain I want to speak, that's how I am able to speak. So definitely I am a doer, but I am not the sole doer. And the point is not, oh, you could always say that if we don't do anything, if we are not the doers of anything, why should we do anything at all? Why should we be responsible? Why should we do our duty? The point is, if I think I am the sole doer of everything, then I will claim the credit for the results. But Krishna is telling Arjuna, there's a bigger plan in operation over here. And you are playing one part in it. And you play your part responsibly. Don't think you are going to be the cause of the death of Bhishma and Drona. It is they are killed by their own actions. The Kauravas are killed by their own actions. And you can be only an instrument. But you have to choose whether you want to be an instrument or not. Now you can be an instrument of Krishna. We can be an instrument of Krishna, or we can be an instrument of Maya. We can be an instrument in the mode of goodness. We can be instrument. We can be controlled by the mode of goodness. We can be controlled by the mode of passion. We can be controlled by the mode of ignorance. The choice is up to us. It's like when I was in Australia, I was asked this question that, if God wants us to make good choices, then why are there so many bad options in the world? Isn't it? So I answered, that's how it is in every multiple choice exam. Isn't it? There are 5 options, there's 1 right and 4 wrong options. Now, among these 5 options, only the person has to choose. But if the person chooses the wrong option, the person can't blame the teacher. No, you only gave the wrong option, I chose it. I didn't fail, it is you failed me. They can't say that. The range of options was provided, but within that range of options, it is the student who chose. And therefore, the student is responsible. So even if we say everything is done by the modes, we do choose which mode to be influenced by. And that's why we are responsible. Okay? Thank you. So, yes, please.
Hari Bol. You explained that every action or everything is happening by the grace of Lord Krishna.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said everything is happening by the sanction of the Lord, not the grace of the Lord. When cruel people do cruel things, It is not the grace of the Lord. We can see that there is the mercy of Krishna somewhere in this action. But
However, how he could help us to control our free wills?
okay, how will Krishna help us to control our free will?
Right.
You mean control means use properly. Is that what you mean by you
I
control?
mean, free wills, we do whatever we like to do, but there should be a control or grace from him to do such action. Either it is bad or good.
Okay. So we have our free will and we can do whatever we want. So how can Krishna enable us to control our free will?
Right.
So that we can actually act wisely. I can make good choices.
Correct.
Yes, that is what the whole process of bhakti is. Bhakti is the process by which Krishna gives us his mercy, his grace. So somebody may have conditionings by which they are pulled in particular directions. So it's like somebody is in an ocean, and suddenly this is the ocean, this is the vast ocean. The land is over here. They want to go in this direction. But suddenly a huge wave is coming. And that wave is sweeping that person away. Now that person, no matter how strong or determined they are, the power of the wave will sweep them away. But if that person can get an anchor, and that anchor is heavy and unshakable, and they just hold on to that anchor, then that wave will come, the wave will hit them, but they won't be swept away by that wave. So that anchor is the process of bhakti. So the waves will come. Going back to the example of the modes will hit us. But mam cha yo vibicharena bhakti yogena sevati. In 1426 Krishna says, if you practice bhakti determinedly, you can go beyond the modes. The waves will come, but if you hold on to the anchor, then we will not be swept away by the modes. And now the anchor is there, the anchor won't be swept away. But it is we who have to take responsibility to hold on to that anchor. And that responsibility to hold on to the anchor is our sadhana bhakti. To the extent, when we have the opportunity to remember Krishna, to the extent we remember him diligently, to the extent we are attentive when we are hearing class, to the extent we are really praying when we are worshipping Krishna. In all these times, we are holding on to the anchor tightly. We are practicing having a firm grip on the anchor. And then, when the waves hit us, when the lower modes hit us, when the temptations hit us, we won't get swept away. So by using our free will properly during our sadhana, to hold on to the anchor of Krishna, we will get the capacity to use our free will properly at other times also. Okay, thank you. Okay, how much time do we have? Okay, sure, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu, for wonderful class. The kind of choices we make in our life or in a given situation, or like Duryodhana made the choices of defying, towards Krishna and, using his free will of area, are those not free will, or the choices are dominated by the past conditioning or the destiny?
Okay.
Are those not free will? What a person is using is
Yeah, I got the question.
defined with destiny, modes,
Yes.
or sanction.
Yes, so when we make some choices, even when we make bad choices, are they not determined by our past karma, past conditionings? Yes and no. See, our past conditionings, they come as propositions. Do this, do this, do this. If somebody has always been short-tempered, and it's like all children cry. But when all babies cry, but when some babies cry, it appears that they're going to bring the whole house down. So, the different children, some babies are looking out of the crib and it seems they're thinking, when will I take over the house? It's like that. So, some people may have a short temper. Some children may have a short temper. Some adults may have a short temper. And because of that short temper, whenever anybody provokes them, they will get angry. Do they have free will? Well, At that time, it may be true because of the past conditionings, they cannot resist the urges when they come. Hmm? So in that sense, it's true that our past conditionings may have taken away our free will. However, the urges don't hit us with the same degree of strength all the time. Even if we can't resist the urges, we can persist between the urges. Even if we can't resist the urges. When I get angry, I just speak terrible words to people. And I can't control that. Maybe I can't. I'm not saying that everybody can justify their anger and I say I can't control. But even if it were true. But we are not burning with that same level of anger 24 hours a day. During the rest of the time, what are we doing? Are we speaking kindly? Are we trying to purify ourselves? Are we practicing bhakti diligently? If we are doing that, that space between the urges is the space where we always have free will. Suppose somebody is an alcoholic and they just cannot give up drinking. But what does it mean? It is not that they're drinking 24 hours a day. They mean that I get an urge every 1 hour. Okay, fine. Maybe when the urge comes, you can't stop it. But between that 1 hour, you have space. So we do always have free will. And between the urges, if we are making healthy choices, if we are trying to do things which will strengthen us, and bhakti practice is the best way to strengthen ourselves, then gradually what will happen is, we will start winning over those urges. The urges may still come, but slowly we'll start being able to resist them, tolerate them, and eventually transcend them. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Okay, thank you. You want to say? Please. No, please.
Prabhupada told a story of a man who was a thief. Many of you know the story, but I think it illustrates this point nicely. So, Prabhupada tells the story of a man who was a thief, and he made a living by stealing things. So he went on pilgrimage with a bunch of other pilgrims. And at night, when everyone went to sleep, because he had this strong urge to steal, he took everybody's bags. Because he knew it was wrong, and he was on a pilgrimage, instead of keeping the bags, he just was moving them from place to place. So he couldn't stop himself from the initial urge of stealing the bag, but he stopped from the point of taking it for himself. So he's stealing bags, I stole this bag, I can't help it, but I'll put it there. And I'm going to steal this bag, but I can put it there. So I think that's part of it too, that when you say the urges come, like your example of anger, maybe we get so uncontrollably angry, but if we're consciously trying to control that, we bring down, maybe we normally get angry for 10 minutes. If we work at it, it's 8 minutes, or we don't say the worst words. We say less bad words. And then we get to the point maybe we control ourselves. We walk out of the room before we say the bad words. And slowly, I think that's also part of our process of bhakti.
Thank you. That's wonderful. There's one devotee was telling me that he had a lot of anger issues. So he found a solution. That he said that every day I have decided my anger time. What he meant was that every day he goes alone in his room for 15 minutes. And he just lets out steam, screaming at the top of his voice. But he's not yelling at anyone else. He just gets the steam out, and then he feels calm, and then he deals with the issue. The other devotee was telling me that, he just, as soon as he picks up his phone, he has to click the browser and he has to visit some website. He just can't stop it. Just, click. So he said, I'll not do this. But he says the first thing when he wakes up, he picks up his phone, he has to click. So what he did was, he said that he arranged some like a filter by which he had like 25 devotional sites. And he had to click, he would just click among those 25 sites. So we may not be able to control the action, but we can control the range of the action. So that's what he said. Yeah, the thief example might seem funny, but it is actually a practical example. We have to do something, but we can control the range of what we do. Okay? Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu, for such a wonderful class and insights. I had one question. When you're explaining about the Kshetra example, that is one kind like limiting or creating some boundaries for us in one sense. So, Krishna, it appears Krishna controls the outcome at a broader level, not the minute level. It appears like that, meaning, like you were saying also, by giving the free motion, by giving the freedom to act in certain limits or boundaries, that means he's not making sure that we are doing this particular way versus this particular way, but a broader plan. Is that a right conclusion, or any flaws with that conclusion?
Okay. Now, is it that Krishna controls the bigger actions and not the smaller actions? That is difficult to say. It is, at one level, Krishna's control extends everywhere. But at another level, Krishna lets the material world function according to its laws. Om Purnamada Purnamidam. There's that saying that what is the best management? The best management is everything seems to be managed and no manager is seen. The manager doesn't have to constantly keep running around, do this, do this. So Krishna has arranged the world in such a way that the things in this world function according to material cause and effect. And is there Krishna's intervention over there? Krishna can intervene. But Krishna has set up the system of material cause and effect. And what is that? Krishna doesn't intervene directly in that. When the devotees had done the first Rath Yatra happened in San Francisco in 1968, then the devotees in London decided to do Rath Yatra. And when they decided to do something bigger. So they made a huge chariot. But somehow they did not increase the size of the wheels proportionately. So when the chariot was going, it went for a little distance, and then after that the wheels collapsed. It's a PR disaster. And then the devotees, Gurudas Prabhu wrote to Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada, did the Rath collapse because of our poor devotion? And Prabhupada said, it collapsed because of your poor engineering. So, we don't have to bring Krishna into every action. When there is straightforward example for things, straightforward explanation for things, we go with the straightforward explanation. Now, Krishna's plan can act even through that. So, is Krishna controlling everything, or at what level Krishna is controlling? Well, it's very difficult to discern that. Rather than Krishna controls everything in the sense that the whole system of cause and effect is arranged by him. Now, does Krishna intervene in particular cause and effects? He can. But does he have to? He doesn't have to. Does Krishna make his plan work through this cause-effect system? Yes, he does. And as devotees, we focus not so much on how Krishna is controlling or how much Krishna is controlling. We focus on how we can be serving. That is the focus. So Prabhupada says, it is your poor engineering, work on it and improve it in the future. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Can I just quickly announce about my books? My books, can I announce?
Yes, Prabhu, definitely.
Thank you. So I have written a few books and much. Okay. Okay, so these three are books which I wrote in the pandemic. So much of what I spoke today is from this book, Bhagavad-Gita Insights. There's 100 articles on various themes in the Bhagavad-Gita. Each article is like a question. The same question, do we really have free will? Are we the doers? Those kind of questions are answered over here. So any questions that we might get while we are reading the Bhagavad-Gita from a rational perspective, those are answered in this book. And there are about 80 illustrations, diagrams, which illustrate the concepts also. And this is Relishing Bhagavad-Gita. This is the Bhagavad-Gita explained from a relational perspective. Gita is not just philosophy, it is Krishna's love for Arjuna being expressed through the philosophy. So, what are Krishna's emotions when he's speaking particular things? What are Arjuna's concerns? What are their thoughts? Vishnu has talked about it, and if you look at the Mahabharata, we also learn about it. So if you want to know Krishna and Arjuna as persons and appreciate their personal relationship and also develop your personal relationship with Krishna, this can be a very helpful book, Relishing Bhagavad-Gita. And this is the Bhagavad-Gita from a inspirational perspective. There are about 365 quotes over here. Like I said, God is the cause of all causes, but not the cause of all effects. Or we can have, so say, even if our worldview stays out of view, it shapes our every view. So everything that we see is shaped by our worldview. That's explained over here. So like that quote like that. And each of these is inspired by Bhagavad-Gita verse. And if you Google this, it will take you to gitadaily.com, my website, where there's an article explaining this particular thought and the Gita verse connection with it. But even without that, each quote is self-explanatory. And this is also a very good gift to give to others directly, and also to keep maybe in your workplace visibly, where people can see and they can be interested and see some quote, and you can have a spiritual discussion by that. So all these three are available. Each of these is $15. If you take all three together, it's $40. There is digital ways also you can pay. That little table outside. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, do you have like on Amazon, like Kindle or anything else like that?
Yes, these two books are there on Kindle, but Kindle doesn't allow us right now to make calendars. So print-on-demand books are there, but the calendars are not there over there.
Thank you. Well, we'd like to thank you, Chaitanya Prabhu. What a wonderful, exhilarating lecture. I think there's such thought-provoking, such wonderful. I just loved so many points in there. If you can keep going on which I know there are many, many questions, but at that positive time we have to stop. But I think one thing that's really important is next week onwards, we're going to have 4:15 to 4:30 anger time for each other. So we'll start shouting at each other, and we can vent out so we can more love for each other after. So that's a great point, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Sundar Prabhu has something to announce. Thank you.
Thank you. I will not take much time, very brief announcement only. Two items I wanted to share with you. One is that Chaitanya Prabhu is giving a class to young students and young professionals tomorrow evening in the temple, starting, UMBC students and John Hopkins students like that. So it will be starting from 6:30 and it will go till 8:15 in the evening. So if you know some students near you, please encourage them to join us 6:30. And if they don't have conveyance to come also, we have volunteers who can pick them up and then drop them also. That's one thing I want to share. Please encourage your neighbors or friends, anybody, young people you know.
The topic is quite relevant today. It's very practical. Focus in an age of distraction. That's the topic, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, true. Thank you. Yeah, focus. We all need focus, especially students love that topic. Yeah, please encourage them. That is the first topic I want to share. Yeah, poster is also outside, so you can take a look or take one copy also. Yeah, then next topic is, many of you already know, we are doing a Bhadra Purnima campaign. That Bhadra Purnima happens to be September 10th this year. So it's a worldwide campaign, ISKCON Worldwide. ISKCON Worldwide book distribution team has kept a target of 43,000 Srimad Bhagavatam sets distribution to someone who would like to read, would like to benefit from this literature. Lot can be said about Srimad Bhagavatam, of course, but briefly, Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna, and it gives practical insights for us, understanding nature of Krishna, understanding bhakti, understanding devotees' mood, understanding devotees' activities, and how they relate with Krishna. So many things for us. Many devotees who just read Bhagavatam systematically, they find progress in their bhakti with a wonderful purpose by Srila Prabhupada, who digested Acharya's, some of the complicated commentaries also in a simple words for us, and made it very practical for us to apply the knowledge in our life. So these are some brief glorification of Bhagavatam. A lot more can be said. So this is a worldwide goal. So what we're asking you is two things. One is, if you or anyone you know would like to get Bhagavatam but they don't have it, encourage them. Even if they have money, they can give it. If they don't have money also, they can come forward. So we want to help them. And a lot of devotees are willing to help them to get a set of Bhagavatam. In fact, Srila Prabhupada said every respectable person should have Bhagavatam in their home. So it's a wonderful way to encourage them. It's not just for money we are doing. So if they have money, they can give us so we can distribute more. If they don't have, they can still request so that we can ask somebody to donate for them. So these Bhagavatams are available in different languages: English, Telugu, Hindi, Gujarati, Tamil, Marathi, so many languages. I may be missing some languages, but you can check with me. Our devotees in the Hare Krishna Prabhu. Somebody had a hand up. Yeah, so Bhagavatams are there outside also, for display. we have bigger sets and also smaller books also. Some people like to carry small books in hand. That's also very handy. So you can take a look, and you can either take a set for yourself or recommend somebody to take a book, or if somebody needs it, they can take a book. Another wonderful thing, Vaisheshwar Prabhu, our book distribution leader for the whole world, ISKCON, he started another program called to distribute Bhagavatam sets to villages in India. So that's a wonderful program. Many villages don't have literature like this Vedic scriptures, essence of the whole Vedic scriptures. So you can even donate to send the scriptures to a particular village. Vaisheshwar Prabhu arranged in such a way that you will know which village it is going to, or you can send it to one of your village that you come from also. Like that also, that's another opportunity for you. Yeah, if any of you are interested, please come to the book table. Premdam Prabhu is there. One of us will be there also. Thank you so much for your attention. Hare Krishna, everyone.
So please take these books. I don't know, we have limited supply of these 2 books. I think this Bhagavad-Gita, I think what Prabhu's personal realization with this COVID is very, very inside. A lot of devotees have really vouched for that. So if you're really interested, if you're reading Bhagavad-Gita, you want to relish more, please take this book. These are just wonderful. And if we get short, then we'll request Prabhu, we can have more shipment later. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for coming. Really appreciate that. Hare Krishna.